Hey guys, it's Luca from Learning MTG, and today I'm going to make another video. I want to talk about kind of my approach to investing. I think, so my investing approach, I think like there's a lot of different ways you can invest. I think investing is probably more of an art than it is a science. Um, it's just one of those things that there's a lot of room for like creativity, and it's not something you can pin down to a formula very well. I mean, you can, maybe you've got some kind of like algorithmic trading, or maybe you're doing some kind of like accounting based trading where you've got valuations based on accounting numbers or something. But I think for the average person, investing is much more, it's like kind of an intuitive process. You kind of just have a sense of things, and that means that you can utilize many different approaches. Um, and I won't even try to kind of list all the different approaches of investing. Um, for example, recently I'm really interested in cryptocurrencies, and so I watch all sorts of YouTube videos on, let's say, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Um, and if there's 20 different people talking about Bitcoin and why they think the price is going to go up or down, probably there'll be, out of those 20 different people, there's like 18 different reasons that they use for why the price is going to go up or down. They could be looking at on-chain metrics. They could be looking at what's going on in the economy. How is government feeling about Bitcoin? How is the network growing? There's just so many angles that you can look at these things from, and so that's just a great example of how there's so many different approaches to investing. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my approach to investing. Um, and I think, like all things in life, kind of the way you approach things is shaped by your previous experiences. Like, what tools have you used in your life? Or maybe, like, in this case, what education have you had? So I had some education um, in economics, like information theory. Um, in particular, like game theory, games of incomplete information. So a lot of, and it's funny too because usually when I'm doing things, like in the real world, I kind of take theory and throw it in the trash can because I think it's kind of worthless. But in this case, I actually really do use the theory, and I do find it. And I don't apply it like directly. You'll see how I apply it, but I think it's quite useful. So in game theory, we talk about signaling a lot, right? So basically, you can get a signal, um, and it can have some kind of efficacy. So let's say there's an analyst, okay, and they're telling you, okay, I think the stock's gonna go up, or I think the stock's gonna go down. And let's say, for example, that their signal has, you find 80% accuracy. That's really good, right? Um, Maybe there's another analyst, their accuracy is 50%, so it's basically not giving you any information, so on and so forth. So you're getting a signal from someone. You don't necessarily know how trustworthy the signal is, um, and you don't know how correlated it is with other signals. I'll get to that later, but you're getting some kind of signal, and that's giving you some kind of information on a situation. Um, for example, I play a lot of Magic the Gathering. People are probably more familiar with poker. In poker, based on how your opponent plays, how much are they betting? Are they checking or raising? I don't know poker too well. Did they fold their hand or did they keep it? So, based on their actions, those are giving you a signal as to the strength of their hand or what might be in their hand. Um, and signaling takes place in lots of different places in our lives. For example, if someone has a really nice car, they might be signaling that they have a lot of wealth because it's unlikely that someone who is really poor has a really nice car, right? So there's a lot of different scenarios where we use signaling, but in this case, I'm just going to think of kind of signals in their pure form. Where do we get them? What are the quality of these signals, and so on. So I think there's like two factors that I think about in a signal. One is the strength of the signal, and 2 is correlations. Okay, so let's talk about strength of signal. Let's say I want to know whether a certain soccer team is going to win the game. Let's say there's a match coming up, like Italy versus England in the European finals, and I'm trying to figure out, what's the likelihood of whichever team winning. Let's say someone says, "Oh, I think Italy's going to win," and I might think to myself, "Oh, this guy knows a lot about soccer. He watches a lot of soccer. Um, he just he's a big fan or whatever. He may have a decent idea on this." Someone else tells me, "Oh, I think England's gonna win," and I know this guy's never played soccer in his life. He's never really watched soccer, so maybe I think that's kind of a low strength signal. Or maybe here's another great example. Let's say there's someone I know and he's an Italian and he's really passionate about Italy, and he's like, "Yeah, Italy's gonna win." How strong is that signal? Would that person just always pick Italy because he's a huge Italian fan? So that's another way a signal can be kind of worthless, is if someone is just going to say whatever, no matter what the underlying factors are, right? And you can find these in all sorts of markets. There's going to be people who think Bitcoin is going to zero, and they're going to always give you that prediction, and kind of irrespective of whatever's going on in the moment. Or someone who thinks Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million, and they're just going to say that no matter what's going on. Those signals are kind of worthless, right? Because you can predict beforehand what that person is going to say. So in a way, it's kind of a worthless signal. The other thing you really want to think about in terms of signaling is correlations, right? So let's say, for example, again, I want to know who's going to win this game. Is it going to be Italy or England? Let's say that there's someone who is like, "Oh, hey, Luca, I actually know some of the guys on the Italian team, and some of their best players are really injured. The public doesn't really know about this. I think Italy's going to have a rough time of it. They're not going to do great." Okay, that's a super strong signal, actually. This person's got kind of like insider information. What if I had another friend and he told me the exact same thing? Like, "Hey, I think Italy is going to have a really rough time because, I actually know some of the players on the team and they're injured and blah, 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 blah." Okay, yeah, I've got 2 different signals, right? And they're both strong signals, but they're correlated signals. It's basically the exact same information. So that second signal that I got isn't adding any new information to the first one I got, so it's kind of worthless. And really, my strategy in trading is I want to find strong signals, and I want to find strong signals that are not correlated to each other, right? So here's another example. Let's say instead the second person said, "Hey, I'm actually friends with some of the people on the English team, and they're like super pumped and they're in really good shape, and I think they're gonna play even better than normal." Okay, that's a really strong signal, and it's not correlated to the other signal. So I can kind of put those together, and they can create kind of like a super signal. It's like, "Oh, I've got this one strong signal that says the Italian team is going to have some issues, and I've got another strong signal that says the English team is really healthy," and then I can put those together, and that to me kind of makes like a super signal of like, okay, there's a really good chance England's going to win this game. So let's look at some of the math actually behind this, and I'm doing this on the fly, so let's see if I mess this up. So okay, let's say you have a signal, and let's say it has of strength 80%. Okay, so if this person says the stock's going to go up, that means it'll go up 80% of the time. And if they say the stock's going to go down, that means it's going to go down 80% of the time. Okay, so if someone gives me the signal, obviously, and I follow it, I'll be right 80% of the time, and I'll be wrong 80% of the time. Okay, what if we get 2 signals and they're perfectly correlated, right? Then again, I'm going to be right 80% of the time, and I'm going to be wrong 20% of the time. Okay, now let's say I get 2 of these signals. how good is this combination of signals now? Okay. And I believe in order to do this calculation, you need like an a priori probability. So let's say it's like a 50-50 probability. The stock could go up with 50% probability or down with 50% probability. Because I think we're going to have to use Bayes' formula here to kind of figure this out. So let's take the first case. Let's say they both give me an up signal. Okay? So I have these two perfectly uncorrelated signals. They're both 80% signals, and they both are telling me the stock's going to go up. So let's say we're in the first case. Let's say that we're in the world where the stock goes up. Okay, there's a 80% chance I would have got the first signal, and then an 80% chance that I get the second signal, so that gives me a 64% chance that they're both up. So from this scenario, there's a 64% chance that they would both give me up signals if it's up. Okay, and if it's down, then I'd have a 20% chance of getting an up signal from the first one and a 20% chance of getting an up signal from the second one. Because remember, these things are right 80% of the time and wrong 20% of the time. So that gives me a 4% chance. So now we can just kind of do 64 over the total. So it's basically the probability that we're in this case over the total probability. So we can do like 64 divided by 64 plus 4, or 64 over 68. So let's use a calculator. 64 divided by 68. So 94% signal. So we went from an 80% signal, 80% of the time this is right, and now we got two of them, and that gave us a 94% correct signal. That's pretty amazing. Another way of thinking of it is you're wrong 20% of the time, and now you're only wrong 6% of the time. So by getting that second signal that's uncorrelated, you kind of like divided this by 3. So, and you can imagine, like, if you had 3 80% signals, if you had 3 of them that were all uncorrelated, it's probably like 98, 99%. So this is really my approach to investing. It's to find these uncorrelated signals. And so let's talk about, how do you know signals are uncorrelated? So, for example, one of the things I would really like to see is, if let's say for Bitcoin, I might want to see a technical analyst. So a technical analyst would be looking at the shape of the price chart, patterns in the price chart. Oh, we've just broke through this certain wedge, or we've broken through resistance, or the trend is up now and we're clearly in an uptrend, whatever. Okay, I would want to see like a technical analyst, and remember, you want it to be a strong signal. So it needs to be someone who's good at technical analysis and someone who has a track record of being correct in their analysis. I would also want to see someone who does fundamental analysis. So maybe someone who is a technologist. So they have a track record of being able to spot new technologies that are about to disrupt old industries. I may want to see, other stuff. In this case, maybe like on-chain analysis, maybe political stuff, someone who looks at these things from a political view, who knows? So this is basically my approach to investing. I think it's very different than most people. I think when I look at other people kind of like stick to their lane. Someone may specialize in technical analysis, and then they'll look at investing purely through the lens of technical analysis. Or someone may be purely in fundamental analysis, someone may be purely in on-chain analysis, and so on and so forth. And, that's what works for them. That's totally cool. But for me, I like to look at people. So I like to get a lot of different opinions. So I'll look at the technical analysts, and I'll try to figure out which one of these don't know what the hell they're talking about, which ones of them are good, and see what they have to say. And then I'll look at the people on the fundamental side. Which ones of these people do I think are intelligent and, have a good track record of making the right bets, know what they're talking about, which ones of them are trash. So I try to pick out, the best technical analysts, the best fundamental analysts, so on and so forth. And then I just look at what these people say. Um, and that's kind of my approach. I also do some other stuff. I really like to look at people who are on the other side of the trade, right? So any trade that you're making, there's someone on the other side, and ideally, if you're on the right side of the trade, they must have some lack in understanding or some fundamental issue with their analysis. So I also like to try to understand the other side of the trade, but I think this is enough for this video. Basically, this is my approach to investing. It's very much analyzing individual people, analyzing their track record, their thought process, and then combining these different signals together to create kind of a synthesis and then have my own view on the topic. So that's my strategy investing. I actually haven't really heard of anyone else doing this. I'm sure that people do this, but and it's very like game theoretic, you're basically using the signals of other people, and kind of just using them from an information theory perspective. I think a lot of investing really just comes down to information. Who has the right information? So that's kind of what I try to do. Is I try to figure out who's got the right information, and I try to collect it. So that's my strategy to investing. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.